Thanks for tuning in. So I've had the Anet A8 up and running now for the last 3 weeks. I have a handful of prints done on the printer. We'll have some time lapses of those, and then we'll go into them in detail. We got our MOSFET in. I have yet to install it. I have to pick up some wiring to run from the power supply to the MOSFET, but that will get installed. One thing I did add since the build video is I designed this filament guide right here that matches the one on the top, so that when my filament comes down through, I'm not rubbing up against my cable chain. On some of my time lapses, I've noticed that my filament rubs up against the cable chain, and it doesn't really affect the print quality, but it is quite annoying. It makes a lot of noise, and it causes me to turn my head every now and then thinking there's something wrong with the print. Other than that, I haven't done anything else since the build video to modify the printer. I will say this: the fiberglass tape, two-sided tape that I used to put the corking on isn't holding up. It is letting go. I do have some 3M two-sided tape on order, and once that gets in, I'm going to reapply the corking underneath. It's still there, but it lets go in some places. So let's go check out some time lapses. We'll take a look at those prints, and then I'll go over what I think the pros and cons of this little printer are. Walls are flawless. One thing I'd like to highlight, since I'm this far into the print, is if you look here, you'll see some amazing overhangs, and they're just flawless. Like, look at that. I don't know how I can capture this on camera, how steep an overhang this is. Like, it's far greater than 45 degrees. But yeah, it's perfect. So I'm really happy with that. I think that's part of the cooling solution though. But look how nice this is coming out. So there's no artifacts in the print at all. Nothing. No ghosting. And the overhangs look great so far.
Please don't fear me, because I know what I want. Please deliver me that soft part of your soul that makes you freeze time, staring in at yourself. It's time to step outside onto the path you once made. Your
Okay, now that we're through the time lapses, here I have all the prints in front of me that I've done on the printer for the purposes of this review video. We'll start with the Benchy here. The real issue I have right now, and that's not the printer, that's my own, and the software, is figuring out the retraction settings, because I'm used to dealing with Bowden style setups, and I'm finding with this printer I'm having a lot of stringing. So some prints were better than others for stringing, but again, that's not a fault of the printer. So here we have a Benchy, and we'll take some close-up stills of this, but it turned out really well, from the chimney stack to the details inside for the wheel as well as the lettering underneath. I'm pretty satisfied with the print. There's some minor artifacting on the hull. Other than that, the little Benchy turned out pretty good. First shot. My second print on the printer was this Shuttlecraft. All these models can be found on Thingiverse, by the way. I'll put the links in the description. This model prints like this, and it prints in one piece. And when you remove it from the printer with a little bit of work, the wings are hinged and they open up like that. This turned out really well. There's a little bit of stringing, as you can see. It printed like this on the printer. So this overhang, I didn't use supports on this at all. This overhang turned out not too bad. There was a little bit of issue right here, but again, it's not too bad considering the type of overhang we have there. The Shuttlecraft turned out really well. The gun turrets came out nice. The details were flawless. I had no artifacting in this whatsoever. So we'll set that there. My next print I went on to do would be the City in the Moon, and I printed this at 150% scale. It turned out really well. As you can see, all the little details inside here. I had no issues with this print at all. A little bit of stringing, as I said, with all of them. But that's a software issue, not a printer issue. So you take a look at this, and I'll put close-ups of all the prints in the video. It turned out really well. And my next print on the printer, I really wanted to challenge the printer with the next three. And as I feel these two and the Benchy don't really challenge the printer, but my next three really challenged the printer. So this one here is a female Alvin Archer. She came out spectacular. My first attempt at her did fail, however, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong at first, but then I noticed on my Y-axis stepper motor on the gear, there was only one grub screw. And if you remember in my build video, I was missing two of the grub screws for a coupler. Well, I was also missing a grub screw for this gear, so it would skip. So that was corrected, and then on to my second attempt at this print, and this is the result. And there's so much detail in her, very little artifacting. I printed everything at 0.2mm layer height, but I just wanted to illustrate the good or the bad in the printing abilities of the printer itself. But the Archer turned out nice. My next print on the printer would be this Die Hard statue. This can be found on Pin Shapes as well. I think somebody posted a version of it on Thingiverse. He required a lot of cleanup because there are a lot of supports on this that you will need, but he still turned out quite well. And he was printed also at 0.2mm layer height in silver PLA. There are some minor issues, and I'm not sure if those are due to the model or the printer itself, but I do have some minor one or two minor under extruded areas, but I'm still happy with the print itself. It turned out pretty good. I did a rush job in cleaning it up, but it turned out pretty good. And then my most recent print on the printer is the T-Rex Terminator skull. So after some cleanup, some stringing, was the major issue I had with stringing on this. Other than that, the skull itself, the orientation of the skull, I printed in both pieces at the same time. The top piece like this, the bottom piece like that, and very few supports needed. I have yet to glue the pieces together, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Again, I did very little cleanup work. You can still see all my lines, the print lines in these. I just did enough to get rid of any support artifacts or stringing. So here are the prints that I've done so far with this printer in the last 3 weeks. This edition here was printed on the printer itself also. Let's go over the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good. This printer, for the price, is a good value. Through most online sources, you can pick this printer up for $159.99 US, give or take shipping costs. I have a link below in the description to where it can be picked up on GearBest. That is an affiliate link. If you do purchase through that link, I will get a small commission. And again, the printer was provided to me by GearBest for review. Another good feature about the printer is the large community and the overwhelming amount of support for this printer. You can go on the Thingiverse and you can find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of add-ons and designs to help make this printer better. There is a negative to that though. There are so many add-ons on Thingiverse for this printer. Some work better than others, some don't work very well at all, some just don't work. And it could be confusing to somebody for a first time trying to go through there and figure out which are the best ones to get and which ones they should avoid. Another positive about the printer is it does come with filament cooling right out of the box. You don't have to worry about purchasing a fan or printing out a shroud for that. It comes with all of that set up already. It does have an LCD display. You can print offline with this printer. You don't need to hook it up to your PC. It comes with the software fully installed. There are upgrades out there that the community have worked on for this printer. One of them is Skynet. I have yet to install it. If I feel the need or I get around to it, I will install it, but at the moment I don't feel the need. The printer is, how can I say this? It's tried and true. There are so many build videos and review videos out there that anything you're going to run into, somebody has the solution already. So it is tried and true. It's not a new printer on the market where you're the pioneer into it. You're the pioneer jumping in, the beta tester, I guess you would say, the one stuck with all the problems if there are any. This printer has been around long enough that all the problems that you're going to encounter with it, if you do encounter any, there will be somebody online with a solution. Okay, now the negatives. There are some negatives. The first negative for me, if you get this kit and you're going to build this kit, one of the very first negatives to me there is the way you wire up the power supply. There's no on-off switch. You actually have to physically unplug it and plug it in from the wall, and it's wired directly to the mains. I'm not a big fan of that, and I try to avoid it. When I heard this kit was coming, I preemptively built the box. I got in a the switch with the fuse so I can plug it in, turn it off and on. But that said, if you're just buying this printer now and you're new into 3D printing, to me it's not a big negative, it's a minor negative, but it's still a negative. The second negative, this printer, if you're getting this printer for the first time, cable management will be a nightmare. You're not going to be given enough of the wire wrap to do everything. I had to use a lot of my own, and the board is exposed and everything is visible on that side. So you're not going to be purchasing this for looks. Eventually, maybe if you upgrade it, print a box out and whatnot, you can make the printer look better. That's aesthetics. It won't really affect the print quality. But still, to me, I don't like a big mess of wires, and that's what you're going to get with this printer when you buy this printer. Another negative in my eyes is the acrylic frame. Now, I've had acrylic frame printers in the past that aren't as robust as this one, where the acrylic was fragile, it would crack, there'd be a lot of play. I wouldn't be able to pick the printer up, move it to another room without having to readjust everything. I won't name the sources I've purchased those through. They're not China. One of them is in the US. Name starts with Nef. As far as I'll go there. But this, even though it's acrylic, it still feels very robust. I did add some supports to the printer, which you may or may not have to add. I'm not sure on if I would have had to add these stiffeners or not, but I did anyway. There's no belt tensioning out of the box, so you're going to have your belts. Your belts are going to be tensioned based on what you can do with your hands. So you want to print something like this right away. Those are just minor things. One other positive I forgot to mention, for the price range of this printer, for the $159.99 US you're going to pay for it, the build area is a fairly decent size. It's 220 by 220 by 200 tall. There's no real way you can upgrade that build area, make it any bigger without really changing this frame around. The price that this printer can be purchased at, the build area is pretty good. Again, a real negative for me is the noise factor of this printer. I keep my printers in the same room that I'm on my PC, I'm watching television, I could be relaxing in that room. And this printer is louder than any other printer I have. And that's due to the fact of these linear bearings. I know there are bearings out there that you can get that are super quiet and much better than the metal on metal bearings here, but that would be an above and beyond price I would want to pay. To replace all these bearings, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 bearings here, so to replace those 9 bearings with the type of bearing I suggest would run me close to half the price of this printer, and it's just not worth it. So, but it is a loud printer. It's very loud. I could have 2 of my other printers running next to it, and I wouldn't notice those printers over this one. It is that loud. That's a negative for me. It wouldn't prevent me from buying the printer, but it would make me think twice about keeping it in the same room I'm going to be in. Let's move some of these out of the way. Now, would I buy this printer? Would this be my first printer? Would I add this printer to a collection I already have? So, let's answer those 3 questions. If I was looking for a printer and I didn't own a printer, would I buy this printer? Considering the price and the community for this printer, if this was my first purchase, I could see myself buying this printer. I'm a little tainted by my past experience with acrylic-based printers, but after putting this printer together, given, let's say I didn't have any of that prior experience, and I was looking for a printer, and I was going online, and I was looking at all the user groups and all the feedback of the different printers out there, at the price point that this printer is, I would most definitely buy this printer. Just given the fact that I could put so many add-ons into it just by printing them out, without having to really do any big purchases. I mean, the little switch here with the fuse was only $3. The MOSFET here was only maybe $12, and it's a 30 amp MOSFET. So those would be the only two things besides the plastic out of pocket I would have to add to turn this into a really reliable printer. Yes, I could say that as a first printer I would buy this printer. Now, that said, would I buy this printer already having the printers I have? Probably not. With my experience on the CR10 and the X3, both are quieter. They're no more superior to this printer in print quality, but both have a much bigger build area. The X3 would probably run me $60 to $70 more than this printer. I would get, the benefit there I would get would be I'd have another 100 millimeter in my build height. I'd have a solid metal frame right out of the box, and I would have such things like complete housing for my electronics, and I'd already have the switch with the fuse for my power. So that's the trade-off. You're going to be paying between $60 to $80 more for that printer, but you're going to get a bigger build height. You're going to get some of the things that I've had to incorporate into this already. Neither of those printers come with a glass bed or build plate, so that's another negative for this printer that I overlooked, is it doesn't come with a glass bed of any type. It just comes with the aluminum plate, and I'm not sure how straight that is. I never bothered checking. I just threw a mirror right on it. That's not a big negative because a piece of glass or a mirror is only going to run you $2 or $3. But keep that in mind, it doesn't come with a glass bed, this printer. Now, there are add-ons I'm going to have to do to the X3 that I don't have to do to this printer. The X3 doesn't come with filament cooling, and it doesn't come with an extra fan for filament cooling or the wiring. So eventually I'm going to have to buy a fan, print a shroud, reroute wiring for that printer. So that is a thing that this printer already comes with that printer doesn't have. So they both have their positives and negatives that are different from one another. Now, with the CR10 that I have, that's going to run you, you're going to be able to buy 2 of this printer and go out for a nice steak dinner with the price that you're going to pay for the CR10. Now, if you're someone looking into a really large build volume, that printer's got this printer beat hands down. But if you're someone that's looking for a strong community that's got tried and true support, and you're on a tight budget, then this is most likely the printer for you. The CR10 will run you about $400 US. This printer will run you $160 US. So you're looking at quite a bit of a difference there. The CR10 is going to come with higher quality components, mostly assembled out of the box. You won't have to worry about spending hours assembling the thing. It comes with filament cooling already. It comes with the glass bed, and it has a much larger build area. But again, you'll be able to buy 2 of this printer, and you'll be halfway there to buying a 3rd one with the cost of a CR10. So if you're someone on a budget and you're not overly obsessed about massive build areas, you just want to get into 3D printing, and you're not too shy on DIY builds, and you have some skills at doing this sort of thing, then I think this is the printer for you. Again, there's a big community out there for it, and there's a lot of printable add-ons that you can add to this printer to make it really pop in looks and as well in print quality. So I've had one failed print, and that was the first attempt at this one right here, and that was due to a grub screw missing. And that's not to say that'll happen to everybody. I could have been just unlucky there. It is what it is when you get something from China. The quality is not the same, and that could be said for any 3D printer. I don't have one 3D printer that I have not had an issue with. My X3, I was missing T-nuts and screws, and I had a belt too short. My CR10, I had a few minor issues there, not that many at all though, but it wasn't perfect. You just have to be prepared for those things. Just go online, read up what people are saying about the different printers. If you're interested in getting a printer like this, just take note of those things and maybe be prepared to spend about an extra $10 or $15 on some minor components. Of my own money, besides the cost of this printer, I've got invested in it maybe another $60. But that will include all the plastic, and I printed quite a bit of plastic components for this. That will include the MOSFET, the extra cable wrap, as well as the plug-in for the power supply. And I'm quite happy with how everything turned out, and I like the look of this printer, especially with all these add-ons and all the wiring hidden. And I'm really happy with the prints. And as I said, if you're somebody on a budget and you're looking for a budget-oriented printer that comes with pretty much everything you need out of the box, you just have to put it together, then this printer is a good deal. If anybody disagrees with me, feel free to put something in the comments. But I can't argue with it with the quality of these prints I'm getting out of it. And for the size, I mean, as I said, I'm used to the CR10, I'm used to my X3, which print a lot bigger. But if this was my first printer, I'd be more than happy with it. My first printer was a Castle Mini, and it printed a diameter of 180 by 300. And that 180 by 300 sounds big, that 300 sounds big, but it's not that big at all, because that 180 is a diameter, which means your square is much smaller. So the print area of this printer, overall the volume is actually much bigger than a Castle Mini. So if this was my first printer, I'd be pretty happy with it. And it's worked out well. It's given me no real hiccups. But again, I've only been running it for about 3 weeks. So I'm thinking maybe in about 3 or 4 months I'll do a quick follow-up. But for now, I'm pretty happy with it. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I do my best to answer everything I can. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video.
Take a breath, hold it tight, trace the memory in every line. Does anyone feel what I feel? I know you're